Would I be the asshole here if I stop all of the favors I've been doing for my ex, since he's refused the one favor I asked? This is kinda sweaty, but my 30 female ex-husband Greg, 38 male, and I have 2 kids, Louisa 9 and Ted 7. We divorced over 5 years ago and co-parent very well. The divorce was because I was happy with our 2 children, but he wanted more, and even therapy didn't help. We've had basically no issues. There's no child support, we're 50-50, have never had issues having the kids if the other parent has something coming up, and understand that it's just about making sure their lives aren't too disrupted. Greg remarried Tessie, 38 female, 4 years ago, and they have another child, a boy, and another about to make their appearance in this world in a few weeks. I am marrying my fiancé Luke, 36 male, in February. We've been together for about 3 years, and he's known my kids for 2. We moved in together last year. We have a group chat, but aren't overly friendly or anything. We only talk about the kids and keep it pretty lighthearted. Our only rules with the other datings is that we would introduce our partners to the other before they met the kids, which went great with both of them. When Tessie and Greg married, I obviously kept the kids an extra week for their honeymoon and again for my actual week so they could settle in. They didn't live together before they got married. When they had their first baby, I kept our kiddos for about a month, but brought them over a few times to see their new brother obviously, so they could settle in since it was Tessie's first baby. A few weeks ago at one of Lacey's games, Tessie told me the date her C-section was scheduled for, which is in the middle of their custody week. I told her that we were excited for them, and of course I could keep them that week and my following week, and we could go back to normal their next custody period. She kinda hemmed and hawed, and asked them if we could keep them for another custody week to give them a month again to get used to things. I said that was fine. I didn't expect them to need that much time for their second baby, but I guess C-sections are major surgeries, and I said that I'd be happy to keep the kid. They don't live far from us, so bringing them over to hang out won't be too out of my way, and of course I love having my kids with me. Anywho, we've finalized our plan for our honeymoon, which is in 3 weeks. I know it seems excessive, but it's something on both of our bucket lists, but it's not something the kids would be too interested in, and the honeymoon seems like the best opportunity to do it. Basically what would happen would be that we'd get married on Saturday, my week, the kids would stay with Greg that night and stay for his week, and then they would keep them for our week and their next week. So they'd have them for one of my custody weeks, plus 1 extra evening. I don't have family around, my parents died young, my grandparents before them, and the aunt and uncle who helped raise me retired to New Mexico. 3-hour plane ride plus 2-hour drive at a minimum. I have friends who have watched the kids before, but I didn't see a single issue with asking Greg to keep them for a week, since it seems like there's a bit of a precedent. I texted him the general plan and emailed him a more detailed one with locations, days, times, etc., so he could know where we were / how to contact us if there was an issue. I thought all was well and good, but they never responded until a few days later. They emailed me what Luke and I jokingly now refer to as the Manifesto. It was long, rambling, repetitive, and still somehow partially written by ChatGPT. The gist of it was, what kind of a mother goes on a 3-week vacation without her kids? I'm a terrible person in general for asking a young mother to have her stepkids full-time for 3 weeks while I go and enjoy myself. They/she kept calling Tessie a young mother. I think she means the mother of young kids, and I know it's not the point, but it kept annoying me. Also, the kids wouldn't be alone with her. Greg would obviously be there too. I am a horrible co-parent for asking them to have the kids for 3 straight weeks while their kids are so young. Their newest baby will be 6 months old by then, by the way. Apparently, it's all well and fine that Luke and I don't want kids anymore. He has a vasectomy and has known he didn't want kids of his own for a while now. But we'd better not think that gives us permission to dump Louisa and Ted on them to gallivant around. I don't think I've ever gallivanted in my entire life. We needed to figure out our own weeks out ourselves. This was not life or death, and it was ridiculous to ask them. I got petty after this, especially them acting as if we are constantly dumping the kiddos on them. So I went through the last 4 years of texts and made a spreadsheet of how many times either of us had asked the other to keep the kids and the duration on an Excel spreadsheet. While we both have made these requests, they have done so for 87 nights, 52 times, versus me, 12 nights, 8 times. Obviously this makes sense, since they have a baby, and I didn't send it to them or anything, but it was good to know that I'm not crazy. My friends say I should tell them that, fine, I won't keep them during their custody time after their new baby comes. I'm not going to do that. I love my kids and I want to see them as much as I can, but I do a lot extra for them. Just some examples. I sometimes, Luke if he is off work, pick up the kids every single day after school, and on Greg's custody weeks, I drop them off at their house since he doesn't get off until 5, so that Tessie doesn't have to take the baby out to pick them up. Keep in mind that she does not work anymore. Our divorce decree says that whoever's week it is must drop the kids off to the parents' house, but I've been doing all of the back and forth for a while again because they have a kid, and because it's not that far. 5-minute drive, 20-minute walk if it's nice. I take the kids to all of their appointments. I do all of the school parent stuff during the day, etc., since I have a super flexible schedule and Greg isn't. He would need to use paid time off for all of this stuff. We usually split health insurance per the divorce decree. They're on his work's insurance, but since I take them to all of their appointments, etc., I pay all the co-pays. I keep a tally just in case I would end up owing him money, and I know what he pays towards the premiums, and in the past it was minimal. But our daughter unfortunately has type 1 diabetes, which has gotten pretty expensive. It wasn't killing me, but Greg mentioned how tight money was once when I was bringing it up, and I decided that it's not affecting my life, our daughter needed it, so I've been letting it go. Their son has been in the process of being diagnosed with autism and has pretty bad meltdowns. This is all I know from Greg, so they call me pretty frequently to see if I can come and get their kids for a few hours if things are overwhelming. Of course, I love my kids and I love spending time with them, but I've had to cancel plans for this, and they have not cared. Greg was in an accident and has been using my old car. I got a new one and hadn't sold the old one yet. It's not worth a ton or anything for the past 7 months with no effort to replace it. Greg travels sometimes for work, and they, Greg and the kids, have a cat over there. Normally, Louisa would take care of the litter box if Greg was traveling, but since her diagnoses, and until we get her labs and health under some form of control, we both agreed that we don't want her messing with it. They let the cat go outside during the day. Since Tessie has been pregnant, she said she shouldn't have to, and Ted is a little young. He tried, failed, now he helps, quote unquote. So I've been doing it. Anyways, these are all benefits for them that I'm going to inform them are ending. I won't go back on my word to have the kiddos after she has her C-section, but the absolute goal of them to not do the one thing that I have asked of them, and that I have done for them, have brought me to this. Most of my friends say I'm not going far enough, but a few have said that it might cause a breakdown in our co-parenting relationship, which would affect the kids. That's really the only thing I care about, so now I'm hesitant. In the comments, I'm Rake says, not the asshole. Don't let anyone walk all over you. They said you were dumping the kids on them when they were doing exactly the same. OP says, I just hated the word dumping, as if my kids aren't a delight to be around. I mean, for their parents, I'm not one of those crazy mums or anything, I just can't imagine saying that they were dumped on me. Peffum says, send the spreadsheet and explain that since they can't help you out, you are no longer helping them out. If you don't stand up for yourself now, before the birth of their second baby, then you lose traction. Think if your husband has to have surgery or his parents become ill, they will not help out with the kids. Stop this right now to show that it goes both ways. Why does he have to be an asshole and not help? Please do not be nice. As someone older than you, you will end up regretting not standing up for yourself. Most women will tell you the same, and cancelling the post-birth taking the kids for a month as they will not learn their lesson. I'm on board with that. You're free to disagree with me if you want to, but OP, you're not going far enough. Cancel the post-birth taking the kids for a month. If you don't, you are setting a bad precedent for yourself. For them, it's more than okay for them to dump the kids on you 56 times. But you asking for it one time is the end of the world. From their point of view, you are Satan, and you can never be forgiven for that, and who the hell do you think you are? You've played so nice with them, OP. What you're asking is completely reasonable. Any self-respecting parent, any self-respecting person would have no problem taking the kids while you guys enjoyed yourselves on a holiday. But no, these people can't bear the weight of what it takes to be a community, and that is repaying favors that were paid to you. If you don't go ahead and slam shut every single benefit that they are getting from you, they won't respect you. That email is the breakdown of your co-parenting relationship. Nothing you do from here can make it any worse. They have already poisoned the well. That came out of nowhere. That was so unnecessary and uncalled for. That was the kill shot. You can't negotiate with terrorists. It's over. If you have a spine, there is no healthy co-parenting relationship going forward. There is only one of mutual respect. And now, onto the update. Hey everyone, I got way too overwhelmed with the responses, but like I thought, I was completely being taken advantage of, and the friends telling me to let it go can suck it. Just kidding, I knew where they were coming from. They were just wrong, and my egg, Greg, and Tessie do need to be introduced to my good friend reality. One thing I didn't mention in my last post is that Greg and I have a long history. I've known him forever since we moved to his mum's neighborhood when I was 4. We were always friendly, and then we started hooking up when I was in college and got pregnant. In his defense, he 100% stood up, married me, took care of us, paid for everything while I finished school, and even paid for my college. But even before all of that, he's always been a great guy and my friend. I know it seems like I was being taken advantage of, but of course, over the years, people probably thought that I was taking advantage of him before I started making the big bucks. It was me who filed for divorce. He said he could probably go to therapy and find a way to make it work, but I knew I couldn't ask him to do that. And there has been reciprocity in other ways. After we divorced, he definitely helped me a lot in setting up my new home, before Luke and I got together, doing things like mowing, cleaning the gutters, fixing appliances. Obviously those things don't happen anymore, but I'm just saying it hasn't always been me doing everything. First of all, this has not been thankless. Up until the manifesto, they were incredibly and vocally grateful and appreciative. Doing things for appreciative people is great and makes me feel good. Unfortunately, now that we are living in the post-manifesto era, I don't get any joy from helping them out like I used to. With all of that being said, I can't continue bending over backwards for him just because he was good to me before. Anyways, I got pretty mad at myself at my last post and decided to respond to the manifesto, and as I was hyping myself up, Greg called. I was pretty amped, so I decided to answer. He started with apologizing. He didn't say it directly, but I got the gist that Tessie wrote the email in anger because of how overwhelming everything is. He reminded me that it wasn't just his son's issues. Louisa was also struggling to get her diabetes under control. Any other type 1 parents can probably relate, and she misread my email to think I was asking for them to keep them for 3 of my custody periods for a total of 6 weeks. Going back to the manifesto, I can kind of see where she was saying that, but it wasn't the most coherent thing to begin with. He said 1 week of our honeymoon is totally fine, and they will figure it out. He acknowledged that it was entirely inappropriate and uncalled for. Unluckily for him, I was not in the best mood, and I told him damn straight that it was one of the most deranged and untrue emails I have ever read. I asked him if anything they wrote in that email rang true to him in the cold light of the day, and he admitted no. I'd kind of been going back and forth on this, and was originally going to tell him to go to hell and we would never switch custody times again. I didn't care if they had 5 more kids with C-sections, but I decided against going that far. I told him that I would get the kids when Tessie had her C-section, keep them through my custody, and would expect to have them back during his next custody period, which still gave them 10 days to recover, etc. If he needed more help, I expected him to figure out any extra childcare for our kids, like he will need to do with his other son. He started arguing, but I just bulldozed through and told him that he could make this and all of the other times that I've helped him out with childcare by watching the kids during my week during my honeymoon. He said that sounded fair and thanked me. But I told him that the email was so far out of line that any and all extras I've been doing were over immediately. He could either find a new carpool, no bus, private school, or I would keep picking the kids up from school, but he or Tessie could get them from my home during their weeks. If they are unable to care for the children due to their son's meltdowns or the new baby, I would be willing to help them, but I warned them that due to their accusations, I would start, tracking this, and if I thought it was becoming an issue, I would file for primary custody. I asked him if that would help. He could have the kids every other weekend. I wouldn't demand child support in light of his very difficult situation, even though I know I could, and he insisted that wasn't necessary, that it was on them to figure things out. He really didn't have a lot to say back to any of this, and apologized again. I told him that it wasn't impossible to rebuild the trust that we have had in the past, but it was going to take a lot of time and hard work on his and his wife's part, because I was done putting in so much just to get attacked. He promised he understood, and he would figure everything else out. I told him that since this was another verbal, aka not legally binding agreement, the first time either of them slips up, makes outrageous demands, or says anything remotely close to what she wrote in that email, I would bring down the hammer because due to the attacks on my character, I now had a lawyer on retainer. I hadn't met with a lawyer yet, but sometimes you do need to bluff. He confirmed he understood. Tessie sent me a text apology. It seemed sincere, but I don't trust her. I know Greg wouldn't throw her under the bus, but the fact that she thought that it was okay to send such a demeaning and demonizing email to me after all I've done for her really ruined any grace I was willing to give her. I sent her a short acknowledgement text and went on with my day. Both their lives are about to get much more difficult. If they try to put any of that discomfort or difficulties on my kids, I will move swiftly, but also, if it means that my kids get a little less at their dad's house than they do here, that's not the worst lesson for them. Their needs will always be met. I know that, and they've been in therapy for a while, so while I'm concerned that Tessie could take her frustrations out on them, I truly think they would tell me. I read so many other stories on here and realized that. 2 things. So, the thing with the car. It's meant for my friend's stepdaughter for when she gets her permit. She is 15, and we all love her so much, but she has that disease that 15-year-olds get, where she doesn't really have any motivation whatsoever. So I was talking about all of this to said friend. She told her husband, and he marched upstairs and told his daughter to get dressed so she could go and take her permit test. She failed, but is going to try again next week, and he's purchasing the car next week. Greg knows, and knows he has until then to acquire a new one. And the cat isn't Tessie's cat. It was Greg's guilty divorced dad first Christmas. I really like the cat. She's very sweet and snuggly, and I haven't minded helping, especially since Louisa does feel bad that she doesn't do it anymore. Honestly, if it wasn't for that, I probably wouldn't have agreed to help. Luckily, the induction is soon, and Greg won't be traveling for a while, so it's a moot point. Obviously, if they were to decide to get pregnant again, they would need to hire someone to do the litter box going forward. I've probably only done it 3 times, but I see that was crossing some boundaries that I should have put up. I'm going to keep enjoying the life that I've worked hard to build. I know they'll always be around and in my life, and it's unfortunate for them that the choices they made got them in this situation, but they're going to have to rebuild their village. I'm excited for the wedding, and especially excited to go to Japan. Those things, and of course my kiddos, are my focus going forward. Peace. And on to the latest update, which is kind of a side update. It's a post titled, "Ex's new son has autism. What are the right boundaries?" So my ex and I had some recent issues, to say the least, and I'm completely pulling back any favors that I used to do. It's deserved on his and his wife's end, but it's going to hurt them. They have a little boy who is 3 to 4-ish, and it seems profoundly autistic. Still not speaking, has meltdowns, self-injuries. In the past, since I live close, if their son was having a severe meltdown and my kids were there, they'd ask me to come and get them, and I usually would. Unfortunately, they've behaved badly, and I will no longer be doing this. They're also about to have another baby, which I'm sure will be stressful as well, so I understand it will be difficult. I obviously don't want my kids to have to deal with anything traumatic. The little boy is still their brother, and they do love him, and I think it's important for them to have the time with their father and his family. That being said, I obviously want what's best for my kids. How do I help them remain positive while also protecting them? In the comments, forget about your ex. What is the best thing you can do for your kids in those instances? That is all that matters. OP says, of course, but he simply cannot rely on me during his parenting time. I just want to know when to step in. You go get your kids. Doesn't matter whose time it is, you need to prioritize their mental and physical health and well-being. I've also been one of those children whose parents fought over who would take them, and it really made me feel like nobody wanted me. Kids pick up on a lot. How old are your kids? What's the access schedule? If your ex cannot parent and take care of all of his children appropriately with the current schedule, then it needs to be amended so it meets all the children's needs. Your joint children cannot be made to bounce back and forth when they're overwhelmed with the situation with the autistic child, and now another baby in the mix. Do what is best for your children. Maximum time is not the best solution. It needs to be quality time. OP says, we are 50-50 and they are 9 and 7. I agree that it needs to be quality time. The issue is, he needs to take responsibility for the kids during his parenting time despite having more. He needs to stop relying on me because I will no longer be helping. I do worry that my kids will end up not wanting to go over if I make them stay during these meltdowns. It's just so complicated. OP's ex-husband backed down very fast. It was actually kind of funny. He probably read the email his wife sent his ex and shit himself. That's why he called his ex. Damage control. Greg is an idiot and a loser. He loved the idea of more kids so much, he ends up divorcing his wife, bringing a witch into the family, and becoming a shittier parent to the kids he already had. Who else wants to bet the reason raising his first kids went smoothly, in comparison, has a lot to do with OP taking on the bulk of it? Obviously, I'm not referring to the difference in their needs, but if Greg was near capacity with 2 kids, why did he think adding more would make things easier or better? And there's always a chance your child could be special needs. He just really didn't think this through, and it sounds like he got wife number 2 pregnant immediately, so I doubt he knew her all that well before forcing her on his kids. What a tool. I hope his son gets the resources he needs, and his older kids don't have to deal with the evil stepmother for too long. Poor kids. Doesn't help that the second wife is older when she got pregnant. Yeah, there's a lot to process there in this one, and it does sound like OP is going to figure this one out. I would put money on the situation kind of collapses and deteriorates further to the point that OP needs to take sole custody of the kids, and yeah, he gets to have his quality time with them every second weekend. That's not a great situation when you think about it. Like, it's obvious to me that Greg wants to be a father. He doesn't want to only spend every second weekend with the kids that he shares with OP, but that's reality. That's what has to happen. His wife is crazy. His wife has problems. She took away all of the good benefits he enjoyed from OP because of her control issues. They have a child with very high needs who does not mesh well with the 2 children that are currently there before the baby. The children's needs are always going to go over Greg's wants. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.